Welcome to the Site Cabin Podcast, episode 4. Yeah. Episode 4.
I'm a little bit confused.
Why? What's the matter?
Who's this guy?
Yeah, so we've got our first guest basically on the podcast. We've been promising it for 3 episodes now, and we've finally got our guest. So I will introduce him because it's not fair to ask him to introduce himself. You know, not like one of them weird sort of corporate things where we've got to stand up for him.
I'll be honest, Dave, I thought we'd just replace Dan. I thought we'd sacked him.
Yeah, I mean, it was a possibility, but he's obviously not got a hoodie on, has he? So
He's
slightly better looking.
it's like, yeah, absolutely, yeah. I'd say you are. This is Michael from MJ Melia Brickwork. So, Michael, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
Great stuff. So, Mike's going to sort of come on and tell his story shortly. Before we sort of get to Mike and his story, what's been happening in the last month since the last podcast? We've not recorded actually now in about 4 weeks. Is it 4.5 weeks, something like that, since we last recorded?
I believe we've had some fans missing us.
Yeah, we've had people saying to us on TikTok, why aren't you recording? Why can't you go to 2 episodes a week? And I'm like, well, you know, sort of financially, it's not always like the easiest thing to do, is it?
Sign up to Patreon.
Exactly. You're absolutely right, though. No, that is a really good point.
Yeah,
If you sign up to Patreon, you'll get more episodes.
Yeah, definitely.
More guests, more content, more everything.
Absolutely, Jay. If you sign up to Patreon, you'll get more of everything. How much is Patreon?
Dan?
It is £3.
No, Danny. No. That's one of the tiers. It's a minimum £1 a month. Minimum £1 a month. So £12 a year, and you get this and more of it, basically.
But what you'll get as well is you'll get all the links in the comments, all the prices,
Yes.
everything you need in there. So
Yeah.
don't worry about remembering
It's pretty, I mean, I don't know.
You don't even know what Patreon is, do you?
No.
You haven't got a clue.
No.
But even though you mentioned it.
I've heard it. Well, it links to money.
Yeah, but so basically Patreon is a way that podcasts can fund themselves going forward by the fans. The fans can sign up, they get extra content, and they fund the podcast.
Because I've been amazed with like TikTok. You've told me that we're doing quite well on it. I think.
We've been accepted into the Creator Fund on TikTok, yeah.
And people send us like hearts or something, and and then they give us money.
Yeah, you can get online gifts. So during videos or live streams, you can get online gifts.
Where
TikTok.
are those gifts? Because
we've got about £17 in the Creator Fund so far that we've made. So we're doing okay, I suppose. I think we're a way off paying for the podcast itself yet.
I think the nice comments and stuff are enough for now, though. Aren't they?
The nice comments.
No, I've seen
the comments have been. But any favourite comments this month?
I just think from my point of view, obviously being a bit of an outsider in the construction, you know, the amount of people who've actually positively took it on.
Yeah.
People who are doing quals, people who are new to the industry, and
Yeah.
we're actually helping them. Like, it's a bit stupid because I know we're trying to be funny, we're trying to be smart and stuff like that, but just the people who are actually giving advice to and
We've had some like absolutely beautiful comments from people. We've also had direct emails again as well, where people have been asking us for advice. You know, is this the correct money to be on? Should I be asking for a rise? Some guy,
that's good.
You know, on one of the live messages and said, I'm paying for fuel out of my salary. Is that correct? And it's all some wonderful questions that actually we might take for granted. But you know, if you're a young lad or girl just starting out in construction and you've got to pay for your own fuel costs to go to a job that's 50, 60, 70 miles away, you know, is that like the correct thing to do or not?
it's not like it's cheap anymore, is it?
Exactly.
Fortune.
It's like you need a bleeding mortgage nowadays to like
fill your car up.
Fill your car up, basically. Yeah. But so that's been going on. So the other reason why we've not recorded as well is we've all been away.
Yep.
Me and Daniel went to Spain, didn't we, Dan?
We did.
We did a bit of golf in Spain.
We did. I found out that sun cream has an out of date on it.
Daniel got very, very sunburned.
Really bad. I put sun cream on the first day with cream that was in my bag for 2 years because we were planning to go 2 years ago, but obviously lockdown, coronavirus. And then
it didn't work.
Somebody worked out while we were there one night that the UV factor was 30 because I'm very pale, but because it was out of date, it was basically about 5%.
Like nothing.
So it's nothing.
Like putting milk on.
I might as well put like sunflower oil.
That could be the source of where monkeypox came from.
Yeah.
Danny caused monkeypox.
My ears were burnt, my head, everything was itchy.
Yeah.
Like, didn't get a tan, just went pink.
Brilliant. And Jay, you went to New York?
New York, yeah.
So
best place in the world as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Anything construction going on there?
Yeah, I noticed that they eat a lot of pastrami sandwiches, the construction guys and girls.
Yeah, Joey Tribbiani type thing.
Every deli you go in, there's someone with an Ardat and an Iris in there, definitely, yeah.
But listen, less of the chit chat. So without further ado, we'll bring Mike in. So we've got Mike today from MJ Melia Brickwork. So Mike is the director of that company. Mike, welcome to the podcast.
Yes, thank you very much.
You all right? You feel all right? You feel okay?
Yeah.
Have you ever done anything like this before?
I've not actually.
No.
So it's first time in front of a camera and microphone.
Yeah, good.
Millions of viewers.
Yeah. Millions. Approaching 3 million viewers, actually. Thank you very much. Approaching 3 million viewers.
I don't know if I'm privileged or if I'm the guinea pig.
So you're both. You're actually both. You are the privileged guinea pig. You are our very first guest. So, welcome. Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it because I know you're a busy guy with work and everything. Tell us about your company, what it does, who you employ, that type of thing.
Obviously, I'm in construction.
Yeah. So what trade are you, Mike?
I'm a bricklayer.
Okay.
So I work on new build building sites.
Yeah. Do you work for like a small company, a big company? You don't have to say the name of the company, but is it a big house builder?
The one of the big 5 house builders, in the country, probably
one of the biggest.
One of the biggest, yeah.
Right, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I don't know if I can actually say if I.
You don't need to. You don't need to. One of the biggest house builders in the country. Yeah.
Yeah. So I subcontract for them. I've done it for years.
Right.
20 years or so. I employ about 4 or 5 apprentices.
Right, apprentices. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Jay, did you want to just jump in there?
I was going to say, with the working for that big company, do you kind of have to earn your rep kind of thing for it, or do you just get there and try your luck with it a little bit and then prove it as
well? First time I walked onto a site, I didn't have high vis or I didn't have any boots or anything. It was just literally
trainers.
Yeah, honestly, it was just literally go on the site, and my dad said to the site agent, this is my son.
Yeah.
So
did you start labouring, or did you go onto the tools straight away as an apprentice bricklayer, if you know what I mean, or did you labour and then do it that way?
Yeah, I was obviously I didn't know anything at the time.
Yeah.
So I was just labouring at the time, but it was probably for one of the.
Do you remember your very first job? Do you remember actually where that was?
Right, being shoved in you're doing this now. This is what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Honestly, it was literally like I am now, basically. Do you know what I mean?
Like in the headlights a little bit.
I'm like, shit.
Yeah, it's fine. It's absolutely fine.
You've got 20 odd bricklayers looking at you, or joiners looking at you going, what's this kid doing?
Yeah. Did you have to mix the mortar then and stuff?
Well, when I first walked on to that site, I remember my dad saying to the site agent at the time, and this was for one of the big 5 house builders at the time.
Yeah.
He said, this is my son. He, was coming on, working with us. And the site engineer said, all right, okay. There was no CSCS induction or nothing like that at all. It was just literally this is my son. He's working with us. And he's like, right, okay then. Yeah. And I literally had a pair of trainers on, and there was no high vis, no hard hat, nothing like that at all.
How long ago was that now? How long ago are you talking now?
I'm 43, so it was 20 odd years ago.
Yeah.
I was 16, so 27 years ago. So the industry was totally different in them days compared to how it is now.
So was you getting paid cash? Was you getting paid into your bank? How would that work?
Paid at all?
Was you getting paid at all? Yeah, exactly.
I actually remember my dad paid me 30 quid a week.
That was your wage?
Yeah, £30.
£30. What? How much was a?
What was that? What was that a week then? What would that be like now? Would that be like £100?
Yes,
maybe. It probably was.
What was a Freddo then? What was a Freddo back in 20 years ago? Because that's the inflation buster.
How much was a pint?
I always remember. Well, at the time I wasn't drinking, but I always remember
whatever.
Pickled onion.
Absolute crap.
Pickled onion Monster Munch were about 10p then.
Pickled onion Monster Munch 10p.
So
what's a pickled onion Monster Munch bag now? It's got to be
55.
Oh, it's a lot more than that.
I think it's a
lot of money.
Unless you get the meal deal, and then you get.
Yeah, we're not going there. We're not going there with the meal deal again. Yeah. Sorry, Mike. So
no, it's fine.
So £30 a week you were on, and was you like actively working on the tools?
Yeah. So I got on there, and there was no health and safety rules or anything like that. So there was no like CSCS test or anything like that. It was totally different. I walked on there. I remember my dad had a carrier at the time, and he was like an old miner from Wales. He was called Myron or something, and he always stunk of booze. Always stunk of cider.
Brilliant.
There was no
shout out to Myron, by the way.
Yeah,
Myron, if you're listening, hello. How you doing?
If he's still with us,
he might well be. Yeah, might not be.
Hopefully he is. And my dad was like, right, I want you to help him sort of, labour on us.
Yeah.
And at the time, there was no forklift trucks then either.
No.
On the site I was on, and this was for one of the big 5 house builders at the time.
Yeah.
And we had 2 houses we were building, and there was a mixer in between the 2 houses, and it was like one of the old big diesel mixers.
Yeah, that you have to handle.
Start up, like crank, 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 boom.
Yeah. People don't realise nowadays, do they?
Well, the thing is that I've got 4 apprentices now, and none of the apprentices have ever put a mix on ever.
Yeah,
that's
a really good point.
Honestly, they've never done it. It's all silo mortar.
Yeah.
So all the silo mortar gets
So just
delivered
explain,
to the
explain
site.
for like Jacob what silo is in compared to like a cement mix.
Well, basically a silo's like full of like dry powdered sand and cement.
Yeah.
That gets delivered to site, and then you press a button, and then it mixes, goes in a tub, and then the forklift truck driver brings it over to the plot you're on, and that's it.
Here's the question then. So
they don't have to mix.
When you first started without the forklift truck, how was the mortar mixed? It was mixed in a mixer. How was it then brought up on scaffold up top?
So basically, when I first went on site, I was taught to like mix like by hand, basically, in the mixer. Yeah. So you'd have a massive pile of sand that was tipped by a big tipper truck. So it just come between the 2 houses, and it was like a massive pile of sand.
It's like bizarre, doesn't
and then
it,
you
nowadays?
But you had the big mixer there, and then you had a barrel of water, and in the winter, it'd freeze up. Yeah. It'd freeze up, and you'd have like a load of ice on it, and then you just get it in the morning, and then you'd have to like smash the ice off it.
It was really common to genuinely really common to have a fire next to where you were working in construction. To thaw out the sand and the water.
Yeah, so basically we'd end up like if the sand was frozen, it'd be pallets of wood or whatever against the sand,
tires, whatever you can find.
I don't know about
a load of petrol or diesel.
Yeah,
and then we'd end up thawing the sand out. But like obviously you've got the with law and all that sort of and legal stuff. It's all like 3 degrees, 3 above and rising nowadays, isn't it?
Yeah. So explain what that means, because that's interesting for everyone else as well.
Well, basically, if you're not a bricklayer, you can't lay bricks unless it's 3 degrees and above and rising, because it affects the mortar when you're actually laying your brick down.
That's the same rule. I don't do any typing unless it's more than 3 degrees.
Absolutely correct. 3 above and rising, no typing.
Yeah.
No typing.
So
it's good. No, you're right. No, carry on, Mike. Carry on.
So if it's less than 3 and above, it affects the mortar. So basically what happens is the water within the mortar will freeze.
Yeah, correct, yeah.
And then it doesn't let the mortar set properly.
Yeah.
And it
goes all brittle.
Yeah, it goes all brittle.
It goes extremely brittle, doesn't it?
Messes with the mortar, so you can't do it. Yeah. But in the old days, it was...
Nobody cared. They didn't know, did they?
They didn't really.
Care. So fast forward from all of that, so working with Dad, working with, I presume, other bricklayers going forward throughout your... get to the big house builder site, and then did you go onto that site on your own, or did you already have apprentices or a gang, or how has that worked? How did that work?
I mean, over the years, over the decades, obviously, I've worked in construction for years. So I've worked with my dad, I've worked with my brothers and stuff like that in gangs, and I've worked with my friends and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then eventually, I ended up sort of thinking to myself, do you know what? I like teaching.
Yeah.
So I ended up, wanting to,
go
have
into
a few apprentices. Wanting have a few apprentices,
right,
and stuff like that. So I ended up employing, apprentices.
That's good though.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing.
I really think when a good employer puts
that's
a
what
lot
I want
of.
to do.
I had a great apprenticeship, but I think when you put emphasis on apprentices and sort of get them involved and get.
It's
I know
unbelievable.
You've got some good apprentices.
How many apprentices have you got from 16 or 0 to fully qualified through at the moment in the last sort of few years?
I'm probably about 6.
That's amazing.
Mike,
about 6.
can I just say as well? Didn't you win an award?
I did actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
That was
I've heard of this. In my research.
Well, I'm from Manchester, but the Tameside area of Manchester, and I had a few apprentices with Tameside College. So
you won. I think you won Apprenticeship Provider of the Year. Apprenticeship Employer of the Year. Yeah,
I beat a few hairdressers to the award.
Yeah,
and,
but
a few other.
But you know what? It's
amazing,
a fantastic achievement. That.
No, I did.
And also as well, there's 6 individuals now working in construction
because of you,
qualified because of you, not because of anybody else. Genuinely because of you, because you've taken them on.
It's great. That
it's amazing. How have you found? Working with apprentices as compared to say working with a qualified builder? What's the difference?
I prefer it, to be honest.
Do you?
I do. Who has the best excuses for a day off sick?
Great question. Great question. Well, what's the best excuse for a day off sick you've ever had?
To be honest, I think it's probably I've probably had better excuses off lads I'm working with who are on a equal,
like qualified.
Yeah, than me.
Yeah.
Because like apprentices, you expect it, don't you? You know the nights out they have and stuff like that.
Did he like? Because there's a like they've got a bad name in construction apprentices. You put someone on TikTok or you put someone on social media about apprentices, and all we'll get back. We'll get good comments, but the majority of the comments will be they never turn up. They're always late. They always cry off on a Monday. Is that your experience or is that?
I think that's the employer. I think the employer. Are you doing enough to support that apprentice?
It's like everything in the modern day. You've got to provide a good place to work, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly right.
You can't just have the old attitude of you're fucking grateful for this job. I'm paying you money.
You've got to support them.
You've got to support them, haven't you?
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
You've supported yours.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've had, like I say, I've had more than 5 or 6. I've had a lot more, but
sacked them all.
Some of them didn't last.
If it didn't work out, they don't work out. I get that. Yeah.
They've got to have the right mentality. At the end of the day, like certain lads have got to have
all lasses.
Sorry. Yeah.
How did that conversation go when you did that? Like, how did you approach it? When you
to
had
be honest,
to let somebody go,
because you've got that link with the training provider as well.
Yeah.
Then you can speak to them about it before you actually speak to them. Just if they're not turning up or they're not on time or they're not they don't seem interested.
Yeah.
Then you can have that relationship with the provider as well. So
you can sort of do it together.
Yeah, you do it together. You don't just do it yourself. You do it with the provider as well. Do you know what I mean?
So talking about the provider, again, you don't have to name any names or anything like that, but how have you found have all of your apprentices gone through a qualification?
Yeah.
So you have also paid for them day release at college, I presume, or something?
Yeah, so they usually do the level 2, the level 3 in brickwork, but obviously it starts with the level 2.
Yeah.
At first, obviously they have to sign up with a training provider and all that, and you have to go through all the paperwork and everything. And then you got CITB involved as well.
Construction Industry Training Board. Yeah. So they support with a grant, don't they?
Yeah, so they give you a grant.
Yeah.
So if you're employing apprentices, so you get, it's usually for the 3 years as an employer, you usually get about at the moment it's about £13,000 for the 3 years. Okay. Now it sounds a lot per apprentice, but at the end of the day, you have to pay for all the holiday pay, which is 20 days a year, plus the bank holidays 28.
Yeah.
And then it's the 40 odd days a year they're in college as well.
Yeah, so you actually lose them for like 50 odd days.
No, it's even more.
Even more.
Yeah, 70 days a year.
Yeah. Wow.
So basically that grant covers for the days they have off that you have to pay, you have to pay them for.
And then you hope that they earn their money, they earn their keep
on the 4 days on average they're with you. Yeah.
But of course,
obviously,
at
you have
16,
to pay them,
they don't, do they? Because they don't know what they're doing. They're not sure.
No, they don't at first. When they first come in, they're green, aren't they? They come straight out of school and they're like in the headlights, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know what the hell's going on here.
Yeah. Is there any stories that might spring to mind about a particular apprentice? You don't have to name the names, but any,
I've had a few. Like, don't get me wrong. I've had a few where did you go to college yesterday? And they're like, yeah. That's right, yeah. I'm like, are you sure you were at college yesterday?
Yeah.
And they were like,
they tossed it off.
Yeah. And I was like, well, I've just had a phone call from your assessor saying you were in yesterday.
Yeah.
So where were you?
So what's going on?
Yeah. I've had a couple.
So you've had to dish out a few bollockings.
Yeah, and to be honest,
that's fair enough.
A few times it's happened to the ones who haven't lasted, but I've had it a few times off the ones who have lasted as well, and then they've ended up, being really good lads or girls.
We've all done it. I when I was at college, I was an apprentice bricklayer at college at Stockport College.
Yeah, we all do. I've done it.
And Stockport College was right near a cinema and an SU bar. Yeah. So I went with a mate one day and I watched the film Dumb and Dumber. With Jim Carrey in. I watched that film Dumb and Dumber. And then I went to the SU bar afterwards, had about 3 or 4 pints, came back to the college, pissed up, shouldn't have done it, absolutely shouldn't have done it. And the teacher at the time was a guy called Frank Stansfield. I happily shout him out because he was an unbelievable lecturer, absolutely brilliant guy, wonderful guy. And he got me in a room and he's like, where have you been? Where have you been?
That's what you need, though.
And I cracked straight away. I cracked. I went, I've been to the cinema to watch Dumb and Dumber. And I've been to the SU bar afterwards, and he knew I did my apprenticeship with my dad.
Yeah,
and he went, if you ever do that again, I'm phoning your dad. Oh. And he knew like the power of, because it's an interesting subject, isn't it? That at colleges and employers, the power of the day released learner is the employer, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
that's the stick to beat them with if they're not behaving. I'll phone your employer
if they're not in college or whatever.
Yeah,
then,
exactly.
And the communication is there. It actually is as well. So, like, all of my apprentices, assessors and stuff, they've all got my phone number. And I you become friends with them as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you need that relationship to keep them on the straight and narrow, basically.
Yeah. Are there any of your apprentices that have qualified and moved on that have that you're still in touch with?
Yeah. There's a few of them. Yeah. They're doing their own thing now, self-employed.
Brilliant.
Mainly, what it's like when you're a tradesman. Not many people are employed really. When they do their apprenticeship, a lot of people are self-employed
after their apprenticeship.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Their employer employs them for the 3 years or the 4 years, and then they go and do. They want to go and earn more money. It's hard for the employer to keep them employed as well.
Yeah.
Because you've got holiday pay, sick pay, you've got pension now as well. Yeah. So with a lot of the lads,
have you dealt with all that?
I've had some of the apprentices who've finished the time and then they've stayed with me, and then you end up having to pay for the pension as well. And
that must have been a few head scratching nights.
Yeah, it is.
I would have thought.
Generally speaking, I mean, I don't know if other tradesmen have the same sort of experience as
I would suspect they do.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure they do. It's very difficult to keep them employed, especially when you're a small employer as well. I'm not talking about one of the big firms.
Oh yeah.
I'm talking about like for me.
Yeah. Well,
I'm just a subcontractor who I work for one of the big firms subcontracting, and I employ people, and a small amount of people.
Where do you get them
difficult.
from? How do you source your apprentices?
I have my contacts.
No, like family, friends, people you hear about.
One of them's my nephew, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. So
what's he like?
He's good. He's good.
He's a good lad.
He's all right.
Yeah.
He's all right. He's a pain in the arse. He won't mind me saying that either.
No,
he's great. He's great. And then I have other lads who are, one of them was from, one of my friends who was an assessor who, recommendation.
Brilliant.
And then I've had a few of the other assessors as well. So, I've had other apprentices, and their assessor said, "Oh, there's a really good lad, and he's really interested in doing bricklaying." And and then they've ended up, obviously it helps if they're local as well.
Yeah, of course it does.
It's not a criticism of you in any way, but why is there no women? Why are you not saying woman?
Good point. So it's a really good question to ask.
It's a very good point.
In general,
it's a really good question.
I think
it is.
Jacob, to be honest, I think I don't know about the other trades as much, but like bricklaying, which I've always done. My dad was a bricklayer. It is a very physically demanding job.
Yeah.
I'm not, not saying that.
Would you be opposed to having a female apprentice, or how?
No. It's all about the end of the day if they've got that mentality in the work ethic.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if it's male or female or anything like that.
Yeah.
But when you're in like bricklaying and you're in construction, you've got all the elements. So it's a trade that's influenced by the weather massively.
Yeah.
So in the winter, it's either freezing cold, it's below 3 degrees. Yeah. Or it's wet and it's windy and it's howling, and you have to have a real strong mentality to actually do that job. You really do.
And it's not just that, it's when things are good. If you go into the pub or anything after work, like if you're doing a gang of 10, 15 people, there's one more, it's not the right, it's a different way, and it's still improving all the time.
I think if that scenario, I think the gang, if it's called a gang of bricklayers, a gang of plasterers, whatever, they automatically protect. They go, not that the girl would need that, but I think that's what would happen. That's what does happen.
And it's like, do we need to force this issue, or do we let it go a bit? And the fact that it's not going to happen like it should in other industries. And
I don't know what the percentage of male bricklayers to female bricklayers is.
I don't know either, but I expect it's really low. But I mean, it's a really interesting subject about females in construction. And I know there are a lot of females in construction in the broader terms of construction, but in the actual trades, the trade specifics, the differential between male and female is massive. It's absolutely gigantic. Yeah. But that's no different than, say, and I'm quoting Jordan Peterson, but that's no different than in the nursing industry, the differential between female and male nurses. It's the same. I'm not making a statement on whether that's right or wrong. I think it'd be great for construction to be far more females in industry, in the trades. So I don't necessarily mean like architecture or something, in the actual trades themselves. It's brilliant. We've got guests, female guests coming on that are in the trades that are going to tell us their story.
I hope we give the right balance of having females open up, but not forcing the issue.
Yeah, because you're right. We don't want to force the issue. We just want to sort of say, like we've done to Michael, tell us your story. Yeah. Tell us your story. That's what we want to hear. We want to hear your story, and so do our listeners.
And I'm sure Mike.
I mean, gender apart. I mean, I'm not so. You have to have the certain mentality to be a press work, self-employed tradesman. I mean, obviously I'm a bricklayer, but I'm talking about all trades here as well. When you're working for one of the big 5 or 6 builders, the demand to like have houses built consistently
to a certain standard.
You're on it. It's like house after house after house. You have to keep up with the scaffolders. You have to keep up with the joiners. The joiners are going, when will you be ready for the floor? Because they need work.
So, Mike, sorry to interrupt. We're going to ask you a question here now. Okay. What do you think of site managers?
Do you know what? Actually, I'll be honest with you.
Look at Danny scowling already.
I am a site work bricklayer. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. You got good relationships with site managers?
I have good relationships with them, don't I?
Good.
I have to.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, I've worked on the same site for 6, nearly 7 years now.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
It's not like, it's quite rare really to work on the same site for so long. But I mean, I've changed subcontractors with bricklaying and all
yeah,
this.
But you stayed on the same site.
But I've stayed on the same site with the actual main house builder.
I would.
So I get on with all the site agents.
Yeah, I would have a guess.
So I'm not like
that,
to
stay on the same site for 6 years. Is obviously a very big site, but I'd also suspect that the work that you're producing and your guys and girls that you're producing must be of a standard, because why would they keep you there for 6 years?
Yeah, it has to be.
And
you've got NHBC, so obviously your work has to pass a certain standard.
Absolutely,
so
keep the cavities clean.
So exactly, you've got the
Clean
NHBC
your snots.
Clean your snots.
Clean your snots.
Yeah.
The amount of times
we're doing a dentist podcast.
Cavities, I know what you mean. Yeah.
The amount of times I have to say to my apprentices,
is the gap between the two skins. So you've got to keep it clean.
The amount of times I have to say to my apprentices is like, swipe back, swipe your snot, flush get your perps, flush your joints.
Yeah.
When you
tie wires, don't forget your tie wires or your black clips for the window formers. It's just basic stuff. But when you've got
easily forgotten. It's easily forgotten though, especially when you're
it needs someone. Especially if you've got apprentices, they have to be with the right person. They really do, because if apprentices aren't with the right person and they're with the wrong tradesman who's not teaching them properly, you can't be having bad habits. Otherwise, they won't last.
Yeah, I totally agree.
They have to have someone who knows what they're doing, or otherwise.
Right, so I'm going to put you on the spot now.
They won't last.
Best thing about having apprentices. Worst thing about having apprentices.
Best thing. I'd say the crack, having a laugh
with him.
Yeah,
it keeps you young.
Yeah, it keeps me young. Honestly, the amount of the banter we have and stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, at first when they first come in, they're a bit like they're a bit like intimidated by it, because you have to be strict. You have to be strict. Right, do this, do this, blah, 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 and all that. And it takes a month or so, and then
love it.
And then
worst thing,
you have a bit of a banter with them eventually. Do you know what I mean? And then
worst thing.
The worst thing.
Say it, Mike. Say it. Whatever it is, just say it. If there might not be one.
I'll say one thing is, I feel like a meerkat. So I'm like, do me, because obviously I'm like on the tools as well. I'm not just supervising.
Right. So you're working on the tools with them at the same time.
Yeah, of course I am.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm like on the tools with them, but you're doing your own job, and you're like, I'm building a corner or I'm running a wall in, and then I'm locking up. Yeah, and I do it every day. So it must be like, God knows how many times a day. I look up and I look at Harry, I look at Deck, I look at Matt, and I'm like, one's on the phone. I'm like, oi, come on.
Yeah, crack on. Is the phone's an issue? Is the phone an issue?
No, it's not really. It's just.
Is the phone?
It's just the way it is in the world today, isn't it? Really, I do it though. But the thing is, though, I'll be on my phone because I need to check my phone.
Yeah,
I have site agents, I have other trades phoning me. I have
TikTok.
Bit from home or whatever, Tinder and all that. So
swiping.
Swipe. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but
no, you're not on Tinder anymore.
No. Basically,
depends when this goes out.
Do you know what Tinder is, Danny?
No.
You do.
No,
Come on.
I know what it is, but.
Basically, he's married.
I actually use Dan's pictures on my Tinder.
Doesn't get any girls or boys or whatever.
Me and my wife have actually discussed Tinder, and we've had the discussion over who would be better on it.
Lucy, definitely.
Oh yeah.
Me and Luce once had a discussion where we said
takes a bit of getting used to. I'll tell you now.
On speed dating, and she said she once went speed dating.
Yeah.
And. Say it was out of 30, she got like 28.
Wow. She snared 28 of the 30. Yeah, but that's pretty good going.
Blokes are more desperate, aren't they?
Yeah. And I was like,
we got into a conversation about
who would be better on Tinder. I mean, I've never been on it.
Yeah.
Never been on any dating website.
But just going back to your phone thing on site, Mike. So I know you've got something in your bag. Have you still got your bag?
I saw you got a gift for us.
I know there's something you're gonna pull out. Is the mobile phone like a modern version of something you might pull out?
Are you gonna get your gift out?
Come on. One of the things that apprentices
get your gift out. Get your gift out. Get your gift out for the lads.
One of the things that I've noticed that honestly, this is on site. You never see people buying newspapers, tabloids
anymore.
Right? Anymore. And I've noticed also, I've watched a couple of your episodes, by the way.
Thank you.
And I thought, site cabin and everything, but you're missing the tabloids off your table.
I love it.
I like that.
So I absolutely love it.
I've got. Well,
so you've got today's tabloids.
I've got today's tabloids. I've got the Mirror, the Star,
and the Sun. Probably the three most popular ones.
Yeah, I mean, they're all a bit of tat, aren't they? But
the red tops.
You don't see many, Times and Telegraph.
That's really good
the
point,
Guardian
because
in the site cabins.
You see the Mail. You see the Daily Mail.
You do see the Daily Mail.
I mean, the main one. What was missing? I must admit. I'll say it briefly. I won't go too far into it. But obviously, it's the Daily Sport.
Is that still going?
I don't know if it's still going actually. But obviously, I brought the Mirror, Star, and the Sun.
I love it.
So I'll
don't put them over Fred. Put them to the side of Fred.
We
can't keep them over Fred.
Because for years and years, when I've gone into a site cabin, they're on the tables. Yeah. So everybody does it. Everybody goes and has the brew, and they go and they lift the Mirror, the Star, the Sun.
Are you done with that? Let's swap.
Yeah, and everybody has what's going on.
But now, like you say, they're all on the phones. As Jacob was saying.
They're all on the phones now, so it's different mentality. So I've spoke to my apprentices, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it's like as though like an ancient relic." Honestly, well, they are in a way. Yeah,
I'll be honest. The more you and
we used to get
about
these
stuff,
every day,
the more I've realised. I think you both started your apprenticeship when they were building the pyramid. Because I was sat with Jay thinking, "Christ, when did these lot start?"
Yeah. But you know what? I'm 45, 46 coming up. The end of this year, next year. So. It's 30 years ago since I started my apprenticeship, but I'm still in construction nowadays. I still get to go onto construction sites regularly on a daily with my current job. But
it's a good point, though. That
it is a good point.
I'll tell you something quickly about those three papers. Yeah. When I started, there was three of us in a van as an apprentice. I was an apprentice, and I worked with two joiners. And the two joiners I worked with, they didn't allow us to buy the same paper, so we had to buy a different paper each.
Brilliant. So you could all share it.
I remember Mark used to buy the Daily Star, Carl used to buy the Sun, and I would always buy the Daily
So
Mirror.
could we very quickly then? Right, we'll do the four papers.
Yeah.
What trade would read the Daily Mail?
I would say a joiner or a electrician.
I'm thinking electrician. Yeah.
Electrician.
Electrician. What trade would read the Daily Mirror?
Joiner.
Bricky joiner.
Okay. Star, Daily Star.
Ground worker.
Star.
Ground worker's the Star.
100%.
I always got the Sun. I always got the Sun for years.
I got the Mirror.
Years.
I was
a Mirror man.
I'll be honest though, a lot of it was to do with the sport because I was always very sporty.
And what trade then would read the Sun?
Plasterer.
Plasterer.
100%.
How about the Daily Sport?
The Daily Sport?
Labourer.
I think the labourer's paper that in.
I mean, we won't go into the Daily Sport a lot, but I mean, in the old days when you'd go in a site cabin, they'd put obviously the page 3 all over the walls and stuff like that.
Them days are over now, aren't they?
Them days. You wouldn't dare do that.
No, and rightly so. You shouldn't do that even more. But you're right. I agree with you.
It did. It did happen.
It was very common.
Yeah. The Sun
and very common. To have page 3.
The Sun, the Star, and the Sport, and in construction. If you walked in a site cabin, it was all over the walls.
But the interesting thing
calendars.
Is now, we've got
calendars. It was all over the
amongst
walls.
us, we've got daughters.
Yeah, I've got a daughter as well.
If your daughter goes into construction, do you want to go into a site cabin?
Absolutely not.
You don't want that, do you? Absolutely not. So that whether people agree or disagree, it's the right decision.
It's a similar thing to smoking. People, smoked in public
pubs.
Places, in pubs and clubs, and when you look back at it now, you think,
I know.
I can't believe we did that. I can't believe we did that.
I can remember the site cabin being absolutely full of smoke.
Everybody else is smoking as well. Everybody else is smoking. And it's just the wrong thing to do.
And you wouldn't want your son or daughter going into that, would you?
No, you absolutely wouldn't. But nowadays, for anyone that is listening that's thinking about going into an apprentice, that's changed now. That world in construction, as Mike's just said with the newspapers and things, it doesn't exist anymore.
Well, they don't actually have page 3 now. If you open, I mean, I'm not going to, but if you open the Sun, the Star, the Mirror,
there's no page 3.
There's no page 3.
Yeah, and
there's
no
page 3 now.
Rightly so.
It's not like it. It's stopped. It's all stopped.
Rightly so. Where do you have your brew, Mike? In the site cabin?
I don't actually.
What?
I know. But
get out.
Yeah, I should do that.
So where do you go for your brew? Your dinner time?
because I have apprentices as well and stuff. I just like a bit of peace. So
I bet you sit in the car. You sit in the car.
So you sit in the car with the apprentices?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, now and again. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you sit in the car. Do you listen to the radio?
I like to talk sport when I'm on my brew, but then when I'm working, I like listening to Radio X or a different.
That's influenced by the apprentices, that I reckon.
Yeah, but then they're like the Capital and all that sort of stuff, don't they?
And do you have an early dart on a Friday?
Oh, great question.
No.
Yes.
Do you have an early finish on a Friday?
Actually, I didn't used to, but
Boo.
yeah, for the last
What time's an early dart for you, Mike? On
half
Friday?
3.
Oh, that's not an early dart, Mike.
That's
tight.
That's a bit tight. That
Mike,
that's a bit.
Mike, come on, early dart's 2 o'clock.
No,
Danny, he's got to pay for all 6 apprentices.
Even I finish at half 3 on a Friday.
Only paying all that to pay for.
No, I understand. So what time is what's the day-to-day hours normally?
Well, the thing is on our site, the plant can't get going till 8 o'clock, so you don't get more till 8:15. So it's usually around 8:8.
Right. Yeah.
Till about I stay till 4:30.
Is that because residents
on the Friday
have already moved in?
Yeah, because there's
so you don't start any noise till after 8 o'clock.
We built 500 odd houses on the site we're on now.
Wow.
And there's we're like halfway there. There's another 500 to go.
Couple more questions for you before we move on to a couple of other things. What are the scaffolders like? Do you like scaffolders? How are the scaffolders?
I love scaffolders, but the amount of times I have to pull them up on stuff because they try and cut corners and like do things to suit them instead of suiting me. But we all do that in a way. It's like
they're under the cosh, aren't they?
Yeah, they're on a price. I understand that, and they're like, you can cope with that, can't you? I don't have to put a table lift up on that pipe, do I, mate? You can reach that, can't you?
Oh God!
And I'm like, no, put a table lift on it because then it costs them time. But certain things like that,
generally speaking.
But I understand where they're coming from. I've had a few rows with a lot of scaffolders.
What about other trades in general? Do you have a good relationship with them?
On my site, because a lot of the lads who've been on there have been on there for years. So a lot of the joiners. So obviously, when you're a bricklayer, the main trades you work, with are either joiners or scaffolders. So basically, when you ring a house, which is like get up to lift height, you have to write scaffolders. They come in do that, or the trad lads now.
The trad
lads. So obviously you've got that as well nowadays. In the old days,
trestles.
The internal part of the house, it used to be trestled, and then they didn't have any safety barriers for.
Do you want to explain to Jacob what that is?
Yeah. So basically, the internal part of the house, like the living room, the kitchen.
Yeah.
And like when you come up to put the floor on, the joiners, when they're putting the floor on, they if they fall through, something's going to happen if there's nothing there.
Yeah.
So nowadays we have a thing called like a trad system, which is like this like plastic platform that's built like just below the floor. So they can't fall through.
It's more health and safety, basically.
Is that like everything else in construction?
They used to have bean bags.
No, it's a great it's a great thing, to be fair.
It is though. Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's another thing.
It's another thing.
But I mean, a lot of thing in construction, from what I've seen from the outside, is that something really shit's had to happen for it to.
Been a death. Exactly right.
Yeah, several
At the end of the day, a lot of the legal stuff that's come in, as has happened through death or injury or whatever. At the end of the day, like in the old days, my dad was a bricklayer. When he first started, the bricklayers' prices compared to the price of the house were a lot more. So say a house was worth 500 grand, they'd get say maybe 10% of the house price or whatever. But then nowadays, say I know for a fact, if I'm building a house for 500 grand, I'm going to get less than 2% to build a house from damp.
Yeah, from damp course.
Yeah, so from damp course to wall plate, I'm going to get maybe 10 grand. That's what, I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about my gang, the lads who work with me and me. So it's not a great deal of money you actually get, but a lot of it's had to come out of, like, obviously land's gone up massively in value, but then you've got the legal issues as well, to do with health and safety. And then, you know, obviously when you're on site, you know, welfare, you know, you've got to have all the site cabins and the compounds and all that as well.
Toilets, running water.
Yeah, exactly. And all the job roles that all these big firms have as well.
Yeah, they have multiple different job roles as well. You're right. You're absolutely right.
I suppose you've got to pay into like a levy.
In the old days, there was a lot of smaller firms. So
question.
The subcontractors, you know, your trades, I think they got a bigger percentage of the actual outlay, you know, of the profit.
Do you have to pay into a levy, Mike?
I don't know, because my profit's not as
a certain amount.
Yeah. So I have to do a CITB levy every year.
Yeah.
But it's because I don't employ enough, and my turnover's not a certain amount.
Yeah, so it has to breach a certain amount before you have to pay into the CITB levy.
You have to earn a certain amount of money to do that.
Every
and I
year.
think that's right as well.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the big firms, at the end of the day, they make massive profits.
Well,
It's, you know, shareholders, you know, they take a lot of the profit. A lot of the money has to come out of, like, you know, health and safety and legal. A lot of the legal requirements comes out of it. So the actual trades themselves, the trade, you know, the self-employed tradespeople, you know, they get less of the pot, don't they, nowadays?
probably the least amount,
I
would have thought.
You know, and then don't forget as well, we don't get holiday pay and sick pay when you're self-employed.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't get holiday pay, sick pay. So
they always bill that as well with, well, you're self-employed, you get to go when you want and start when you want and all that, and it's bullshit. It's utter bullshit. You've still got to work your balls off.
Yeah.
Every
Absolutely.
day.
Yeah.
For
Right.
And when you
earn your money. You earn your money.
When you have a week's holiday, you pay for that week's holiday. Say you go to Spain for a week, but actually you're losing a week's wage as well. So you're paying double.
Yeah,
you're paying double. But
absolutely,
you know, there is swings and roundabouts. But the more I think about it nowadays, the swings and roundabouts are more weighted towards. Less weighted towards self-employed and perhaps more weighted towards maybe employed.
It's not easy.
People. I know that.
It's not an easy game.
Yeah.
It's not. I mean, you know, we've got, different trades, you know, have their own different things, but like as a bricklayer, that's all I can say.
Yeah.
You know, we have the weather to deal with as well. So
yeah,
you know,
certain
times of the year we can't lay because it's below 3 degrees, or you know, if it's pouring down with rain. Or if it's too windy. So, like, you know, we're building walls up, massive walls up. And if it's, you know, 20, 30, 40 mile per hour winds, you know, them winds, you know, them walls fall down. So if you're building them up and then they fall down, then you have to build them back up again.
You don't get any extra.
You don't get anything extra.
The flip side of that, when it's boiling hot and it's impossible to do.
And then you're knocking mortar up all the time.
Worst thing for me if it's too hot. It's the worst thing ever. I hated that when it's too hot. It sounds great. We said it on episode 1, didn't we? Yeah. Oh, have you been on holiday?
I don't want to depress everybody there, by the way.
No, you're not depressing anyone. So let's talk about the table. Danny, why have you got an apple? Why is there an apple on the table, Danny?
Well, I was travelling before and...
nice red apple there, Dan.
Apple. But you've got a good story about an apple, David.
Yes, I have got a good story about an apple, actually.
Who's the site manager?
So it was a practical joke that was played on an individual that I used to work with a long, long time ago, not by me. So basically, we were working on a refurb. We were doing up a house, refurbing a house, and the site manager was a horrible person, really nasty piece of work, not a nice guy to be around at all. And one of the individuals, a labourer called, I'll say his name, Paul Riley, who I worked with for a long time, who unfortunately committed suicide, killed himself. Great memory of him I have, but he this was before mobile phones, so we were working next to a petrol station, and every time the site manager would go right up on the scaffold, there was a phone in the site cabin with a big bell on it. It was brrr, 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 you know, big. So he'd wait for the site manager to go up to the top of the scaffold, run into the petrol station, phone the site cabin, and the site cabin would ring, and he'd go down. And just as he'd go down, he'd put the phone down again. It was brilliant. It was constant. Anyway, he caught him doing it and realised he was doing it, and they had this big row and sort of kicked off. You know, he did it about 20 times. It was brilliant. He'd go up to the top of the scaffold, come back, ring, the phone would ring, he'd go back down, bang, he'd put the phone down. Every single time he got him, he eventually realised he did it. Anyway, this one day he wasn't there. The site manager was away or whatever. He was away from the site cabin. His sandwich box was there. Me and a colleague were working away. It was actually my dad. It wasn't a colleague. I don't know why I said colleague then. It was my dad. We were working away. And we turn around and Paul shouts. He goes, "Hey, lads, look at this." And we turn around and Paul is looking at us, but he's looking at us through his own legs. His pants are down and he's got an apple between his bum cheeks. A beautiful red apple between his bum cheeks. It could well be the apple. I don't know. So we're like, "Oh, Paul, that's horrible." Whatever, you know. It's a bit of banter. It's what construction might have been like back in the day. I'm not justifying it before anyone comments or anything like that. I'm just saying this is what happened. So dinner time comes. We go to the dinner time. We go to the cabin and we have our dinner. And the site manager comes in, opens his dinner, and begins to eat an apple, which I can only describe as matching exactly the apple that was between Paul's legs. I don't know. That's the story. Yeah, God rest his soul.
What's in Mike's bag?
What is in Mike's bag?
You said you
have you got other things in your bag, Mike?
No, the tabloids were. I've got I've got a couple of beers in me.
Oh well, you can drink beers on the podcast. That's absolutely fine.
I've not done, but
drink beers on the podcast.
Was that your surprise?
Yes, the Mirror, the Star, and the Sun. Do you know what? I really wanted to get the Daily Sport, and it's not for any of it. It's just traditionally the site cabins from when I was younger. They were on the tables in the site cabins. So you'd go in the site cabin and everyone would be reading the tabloids. Yeah. And, we'd all, you pull a funny story out, don't you, out of one of the tabloids and you end up reading it to each other, don't you?
Absolutely.
And it's a bit of banter for, it lightens the mood, doesn't it?
I think nowadays, the difference nowadays is they'd be scrolling on some social media platform and they'd say, "Look at that video."
Yeah, that's exactly really what my apprentices do now. Yeah. So they go, "Oh, look at this," and, and they show you something.
Well, hopefully they'll be watching you on this episode at some point in the future. Hopefully.
Well, I'm taking the mickey out of me.
Talk about the cups, Danny. I've just noticed your cup.
The man behind the bump. Yeah.
So does that mean your wife is a certain condition?
No, she's definitely not. No, she's definitely no. We're about to move house and we're not having any more children.
No, okay, fair enough.
So what's the bump? Is that you?
Yeah, it's not to do with the baby, which you'd think. It's to do with my bump.
Your bump. Can we call it a beer belly?
Yeah.
Or a doner kebab belly, maybe. I don't know.
I think this week it's more like probably Greg's belly.
Greg's
belly.
Yeah. Great question.
Love Greg's.
What's the best? What's your Greg's go-to?
Steak bake, cheese and onion, and a sausage roll.
Boom!
And 4 donuts.
All 3.
And what? How many?
4 jam donuts.
4 jam for dinner?
And a bottle of Dr. Pepper.
Fat bastard. Jay?
If I'm going in about 11 o'clock, I'll get a bacon roll and a latte, but you get 2 sausage rolls and a tomato soup. Dip the sausage roll in tomato soup.
That is fit. Yes. I love this. Mike's go to Greg's.
I like the chicken and bacon baguette thing. Yeah. I like that. Yeah, the chicken and bacon. I like that.
I'm not feeling it, to be honest.
Yeah, the baguette. No, I do. I always go for that.
Danny, your appetite certainly seems more than everybody else's. Mine would be a steak baked sausage roll, definitely tomato soup. Yeah. I've never dipped.
Oh, you've got to be a dipper.
I've got to start dipping.
Might try that.
Yeah,
but the breakfasts are unbelievable. Yeah. So good.
Might start. Sort of moving on. Basically, we want to also find out how far the podcast has travelled, don't we? We've talked about that. So, as in, like, geographically, how far the podcast has travelled.
Where are we, Jay?
Jay gave us some really interesting stats before, and I don't know if you can remember them or not. I don't know.
We've been to, obviously, UK. It shows us cities, London, Newcastle, all around the UK. Ireland. People are interested there. I think we've gone as far as Australia.
We've got Australia, we've got New Zealand. But what we want to do is sort of set a challenge to our listeners and our viewers as to, if you're listening or watching in some far-flung country, maybe you could put a message on our social media. Tell us where you are. Tell us what it is that you're doing over there. Maybe you're working over there.
And if they're not on social media, Dan, where can they email?
Brilliant one. Do the email, Dan, without looking. Go. It's episode 4, Danny.
Site Cabin Podcast.
No, no. It's inquiries at sitecabinpodcast.co.uk.
Get in touch, and that's good. But I think we're coming towards the end of it. It's gone so fast.
No, it's been brilliant. Mike, thank you so much for joining us today. Really, really appreciate it. Yeah. Really love listening to your story.
It's good to see someone from the industry instead of these.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, a real bricklayer.
A real bricklayer, yeah.
No. Well, something I was going to ask about this. There's two things. One was Dave's, obviously, background, your background. Can we just feel both your hands?
Oh, are you talking about like how rough they are compared to...
You want to feel my hand?
Soft hands.
Oh, my hand's going to be very soft.
Right. One question I've got from a non-tradie is who's got the biggest sausage fingers?
Definitely Mike, I'd say. Or Danny, maybe. Danny's got good shovel hands. So what was the difference, Danny, in the two hands? Horrific.
Yeah.
Like I don't do any manual labour whatsoever anymore.
I've got cuts on them.
Yeah.
And I was
Segs.
Do you know what? I'll be like, today I built the front of on the second floor of the house, and I was actually, when I was actually laying it, thinking I should have had my gloves on today, because you know when you laying brick and then your fingers start cutting up.
Yeah, it's horrible.
I know. Yeah. I mean, I do wear gloves myself.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the thin ones.
Yeah.
Like in the old days when I was younger.
Marigolds.
Like, I remember. I started with my dad. And my dad was like, "Oh, wear these," and I was like, "What are these?" And it's like marigolds, you know, what like everybody washing up with. Yeah. And I couldn't believe we didn't have like the gloves that we have nowadays. You know what I mean?
Marigolds are yellow. We could merchandise that.
Yeah, you could with Site Cabin Podcast gloves on.
Mike, as part of being a guest on the Site Cabin Podcast,
all right,
you get a free Site Cabin Podcast hoodie, which we'd like to present to you. Hopefully, you'll wear it on site. Maybe get a picture of it. Doubles up as a high vis jacket as well.
Thank you.
So, thank you for being our guinea pig. Yeah. Thank you for being our very first ever guest on the podcast. We genuinely really do appreciate it.
I've enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Episode 5, there's going to be another guest on episode 5. How can they get in touch with us, Jay?
Links in the comments. You've got TikTok, Facebook, Twitter. Watch us on YouTube. If you can't watch us on YouTube, listen on Spotify. Patreon. Sign up as a member.
Yeah, get that one going.
The more you pay, the more episodes, the more content, and the more guests.
Absolutely correct, yeah. Thank you very much for listening. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you for watching. We'll see you on the next episode. Thank you very much.